best to do my duty, to guide my country, to obey the Scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight.
Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to the Siegel Court of Honor and the ceremony for Jacob Maxham. Before we begin our ceremony, I'd like to share a story with all of you. This tale was adapted from a story by Ernest Thompson Seton, one of the founders of the Boy Scouts of America. Hundreds of years ago, in the southwestern part of our country, a tribe of Indians lived. They were a peaceful people and were ruled by a wise chief and tribal council. When a vacancy occurred on the council, the chief would devise a method to choose a new member from the young men of the tribe. A vacancy had come about, and early one morning the chief gathered the young men about him and said to them, "Look to the east and see the great mountain. It is across the desert. On the side of the mountain, at various levels, there are shrubs and trees that grow. When I direct you to, you will leave here and cross the desert and climb the mountain. Go as high as you can, and from the place that you turn, pick a leaf from a tree and bring it back to me. Now go." The young men all left, and the tribe went about its daily work. Early in the afternoon, 2 young men returned and gave to the chief sprigs of sagebrush. The chief said, "My sons, you did not climb very high, not even to the first spring." About an hour later, 2 more young men came to the chief with leaves of the aspen tree. The chief said, "Well, I see you reached the first plateau." More young men came back, weary from their climb, bringing needles of the red and pinyon pine. The chief thanked them for their effort and said, "You almost got to the top." In the early evening, as the sun was low in the west, a lone young man came out of the desert and into the village. The people gathered about him as he walked up to the chief. A radiance showed on his face as he spoke. "My father, I climbed past the aspens, past the pines, and found there were no trees. Then I reached the top. I looked out to where the sun comes from and saw the shining sea. There were no leaves or twigs or grass. I looked up and saw an eagle circling over me, coming lower and lower until he flew about my head and dropped this single feather, which I give to you." The chief looked at the boy and with tears in his eyes said, "My son, you have done it. You have climbed and reached the top. You have seen the glory of the mountain and will take your place on the council." I feel this story depicts Jacob's journey. As in the story, Jacob will take his place on the council, which for Jacob will be his rank of eagle. For Jacob, this is the celebration of the membership into the elite fraternity with his fellow Eagle Scouts. The story talks of an eagle. What is the eagle? Webster's dictionary says the eagle is a bird of prey. It is also the symbol of our great nation, and it is the highest recognition offered in scouting. Scouting came to the United States in February of 1910. It is an organization that develops and creates a very solid foundation for young men that they use for their entire lives. Scouting has 8 methods of the scouting movement. They are scouting ideals, patrols, outdoors, advancement, personal growth, adult association, leadership development, and uniform. The Eagle journey is long, challenging, time-consuming, and a journey of reflection about oneself. It is not a journey of just merit badge accomplishments and rank advancements, but a journey of personal growth as an individual. It is said that an Eagle Scout is not just something you earn, but something you become. Still to this day, only approximately 4% of all Scouts reach the rank of Eagle. Besides pursuing the rank of Eagle, the Scout has to attend to his day-to-day obligations in life. Jacob, of course, is a full-time student, school athlete, active in the community, is in the school band, very active in his church, and also holds a part-time job. The attainment of this award is made possible through the support of those with the candidate today: his scoutmaster, troop leaders, fellow scouts, parents, family, friends, and members of the community. So Jacob, sit back and enjoy today's ceremony as we all come together to celebrate you and this amazing achievement you have accomplished. I would like to invite Tyler Chinawith to the front. Tyler is a Woodstock Union High School graduate and is a Woodstock Troop 220 Eagle Scout and will read a poem entitled "The Eagle."
The eagle. 'Twas the eagle they chose as a symbol of strength for a new and mighty land that was forged in truth and liberty, delivered by God's own hand. That eagle stands for integrity and pride throughout our age, to remind us of the wars we fought for freedom and the price we've paid. And so it was when Lord Powell called on his troops of boys to be men, that this symbol so strong, so pure, and so proud was called to serve again. Not every scout can wear this badge. In fact, they are but few, who rise above their peers today to remind us of what is true. That loyalty and being good will always be our aim, that courage and faith are the best of us, that the eagle knows no shame. These honored few who wear this badge walk among us to this day to exemplify the very best that we strive for. So now we pray that God will bless and keep these scouts always in his sights, for it is they, not us, who know it best. The eagle stands for right.
Thank you, Tyler. Next, I would like to invite up Ed McCullen. Ed is the Scout Executive CEO of the Green Mountain Council, the Boy Scouts of America, for the entire state of Vermont, and would like to explain to all of you the significance of the Eagle Award. Ed?
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's great to see such a nice turnout for Jacob and his family, and congratulations, Matt. And Jacob, special day for you. I got to tell you that my part of this ceremony is what's an eagle, but I think after you heard what Mark had to say and what Tyler had to say, it pretty much sums it up about what an Eagle Scout really is, or what an eagle is. It's a symbol of America. It represents who we are as a nation. It represents leadership. So I'm going to try to spin off that a little bit as best I can. That was very good, by the way. Took most of my notes right out of my hand. But so from my perspective, Scout Executive, Boy Scouts America, Green Mountain Council, I've been involved in this profession for almost a long time. And I've been to a lot of court of honors to recognize Eagle Scouts, and it is really a journey. You were a Cub Scout, right? Weeblos, Arrow of Light, Scout, Tenderfoot, up through the ranks. And as Mark mentioned, 1 in 4 boys who joined the Boy Scouts America attained the rank of Eagle Scout. We're almost 2 million strong, a little more 2 million strong nationwide. About 100, I don't know how many Boy Scouts, but a lot of Boy Scouts don't make that rank for a lot of different reasons. And parents, if you're in there and you have Star Scouts or First Class Scouts and they're 13 or 14 years old, that pyramid shrinks very quickly with outside interest of sports and cars and girlfriends and work and thinking about a ton of other things. They don't really realize how important it is to attain that rank while they're 14, 15, 16 years old. And once you're 18, the journey is over to attain the rank of Eagle Scout. So congratulations. It's a tough road. Did you have your moments? Yeah, I'm sure you did, yeah. Mom, Dad, there's some times you just wanted to, oh, pretty confident he's there. That's good. Well, Jacob, I'll tell you, as an Eagle Scout, and this is the expectation of you as an Eagle Scout, you're now a teacher, a mentor, someone all the other scouts are going to look up to as a role model. Big shoes to fill. And probably more equally important is when you look at this country and what the general community thinks about an Eagle Scout and what their perception of an Eagle Scout is. High expectations. The Boy Scouts of America have a great reputation in this country for 108 years. We've been on the forefront of character development, of citizenship training, of personal, mental, and emotional fitness. We've set the example with the Scout Law: trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly. Those 12 points, words to live by. The Scout Oath, the base of what we do and who we are, year after year. A lot has changed in the Boy Scouts of America, the way we implement the program, some of our membership standards, some other things, but what has not changed is who we are as an organization, teaching those leadership skills and developing character in young people. So I got to tell you, Jacob, the good news is you're an Eagle Scout. The news that's going to be challenged is you're a marked man. How many Eagle Scouts in the room? Raise your hands. Okay, you guys get it? You guys get it. Every place you go, that label's on you. And God forbid, if something happens, and that person, it happens from time to time, an Eagle Scout goes a little south, and that hits the paper, my God, an Eagle Scout got in trouble. Or the Boy Scouts of America did this. We have set the standards pretty high, ladies and gentlemen, of who we are. So to uphold that, we've got to be very careful about what we do. As Mark mentioned earlier, becoming an Eagle Scout and really becoming a Scout is who we become. We do live by the Scout Oath and Law. And if we can do that, we're in good shape. I'll just end by saying becoming an Eagle Scout is a tough journey. It's very hard, it's very challenging, well-versed in a lot of things you have to accomplish. But once you're an Eagle Scout, you're always an Eagle Scout. That will never go away. So if someone talks to you, or you're an Eagle Scout yourself, and someone says, well, how far did you get in scouting? Well, I was an Eagle Scout. Wrong answer. I'm an Eagle Scout, because once that's in your bones and in your system, it's who you are as a person. So to the younger scouts and to the Cub Scouts out there, I challenge you, follow Jacob's example. Jacob, be the example. Be strong for those young people, and they can look up to you as a role model that you should be. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ed, and making the trip down. It's much appreciated. I would like to invite up Frank Hudson. Frank is Jacob's uncle and will recite a quote from former U.S. President Calvin Coolidge.
Good afternoon. I was very pleased when Jacob asked me to read a quote at his Eagle ceremony, and I was very pleased with the quote that he chose. At Calvin College, the following Calvin Coolidge quote: "Nothing in this world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. The slogan, 'Press On,' has solved and always will solve the problems of the human race."
Thank you, Frank. I would like to invite up Mary McVeigh and Barbara Berry of Sustainable Woodstock to speak to you about Jacob Siegel project that he conducted in Woodstock.
Good afternoon. Barbara and I are delighted to be here to honor Jacob and to express extreme gratitude for all that he has contributed to a very special project of ours as well. We are 2 members of Sustainable Woodstock's East End Action Group. We formed back in 2009 to work specifically on projects of redevelopment and environmental reclaim in the East End of Woodstock. Specifically, the East End, what is now a park. Many of you probably know about this park, but I venture that there are many others who've never heard of it, don't know where it is, and even if you do know about the park, you might not realize that it hasn't always been a park. This is bordering the Ottaquechee River in the East End of Woodstock, and formerly it was basically a municipal dump, i.e. a snow dump, and also the location for all of the highway maintenance equipment. So there were concrete barriers and piles of gravel and so forth. It was our group, which is completely a volunteer group, that decided maybe there would be a better community use for this area. So we started very slowly but determinedly to convert what had been full of derelict buildings and overgrown invasive species and a lot of plain junk into something that the community could enjoy and appreciate. The short course is that it's now a park with green grass and trees and shrubs, and although there's much more still to do, it is truly a park. When Jacob approached us with his idea for a project that he would build and donate benches, picnic tables, and put them in the park, we were beyond thrilled. We could not have done this ourselves. And so it has truly transformed what the park looks like. And let us just give you a glimpse of how people are enjoying the park as it is now.
It certainly has been transformable. I think within days of Jacob getting the picnic tables down there, and I mean maybe hours, we had people in the East End business community coming down and eating lunch on the tables. We had people sitting reading books on the tables. We had people who were walking their dogs stop and admiring the tables. When also Jacob had the stone gorgeous benches that were put on the side there were people actually sitting on the benches, I think, while he was putting them in. And I have to say that the coffee company has been thrilled because there are many, many people who go to Abercrombie and they get their coffee and whatever and use the benches all the time. The other thing is that we've also had a food truck festival there. The benches were fabulous. People would be able to sit on them. And it really has been a transformable thing within our community. It does make it look like a real park. Jacob, on behalf of Sustainable Woodstock and the East End Group, we thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Ladies, thank you so much for sharing that great story. Jacob, can you please come forward? I'd like to invite Mary Riley up for a special presentation to Jacob. Mary is a member of the Woodstock Scouting Committee and dedicates a lot of time and support to scouting in Woodstock. Mary?
Jacob, on behalf of Woodstock 2220, the Boy Scouts of America, I am pleased to present this flag which is flown over the U.S. Capitol in recognition of your achievement. Congratulations, Jacob.
Thank you, Mary. One of the important elements in scouting is the scout law, as Ed had spoke to. The scout law will show a scout how to live as a boy and as a man. Jacob, can you please come forward and recite the scout law for us, please?
Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent.
Thank you, Jacob. I would like to invite up Bob Ennis. Bob is the Scoutmaster of Woodstock Troop 220, and he would like to say a few words about Jacob.
I'm pretty sure Jacob had a way to light those candles in about 30 seconds somewhere in one of his pockets, but we'll save that for later. First, I know it's a cliche, but I'd like to say that the only way this could happen is with the Maxham family and some of the, I won't call them sacrifices, but I will call them choices that they made to make sure that Jacob was at as many meetings and did as much as he could. And if you do the math on that, you started a Cub Scout at, I don't know, how old are you, 6, 7? So it's been 11, 12 years. There's 52 weekends in a year. That's a lot of weekends where you're making decisions about what you're going to do, and you're incorporating 99% of the time scouting in that weekend. So I just wanted to start there. So I have a terrible memory, and I have no focus whatsoever. So you're in for a real treat, but I'm going to try to stick to two things. So one is today is about recognizing Jacob's achievement, and two, the motto of the Boy Scouts of America is be prepared. So since I'm only remembering two things, this leaves a lot of things for things I don't remember. For example, here's some things I don't remember. I don't remember Jacob complaining that anything was too hard. I don't remember Jacob getting discouraged. Now, I'm not saying that didn't happen, but I have a bad memory. I'm sure it happened once or twice, but I don't remember it. I don't remember Jacob showing up without the 10 essentials. So everybody here should know what the 10 essentials are. If you're going outside, you should have the 10 essentials. Right, Jacob? Right. So they are, in order. First aid kit, filled water bottle. Notice the word filled. We're dealing with scouts. Flashlight. If they're scouts, they're also going to have not just take flashlight. They're going to have flashlight, extra batteries, another flashlight. Trail food, sunscreen, whistle, map and compass. Knowing how to use a map and compass. Very good. Rain gear, hypothermia. We don't want that. The whistle, because you're not going to be able to hear the whimpers out there in the forest. You need a whistle so you can actually find somebody. Pocket knife, matches and fire starters. So that rounds out the 10. So everybody here, when they leave, is in agreement. They're going to have that with them when they go out into the woods, right? Right. Otherwise, you'll be in the Valley News, and we don't want that. And almost made the top 10, I like to say, is two things. Any of the scouts know what one of these might be? Duct tape. Toilet paper, yes. Almost made the top 10. They don't make it, though, because you can live somehow without them. I don't know about the duct tape, but... So on the last point, I just wanted to say... there's one other thing I don't remember about Jacob, and that is Jacob not being able to roll with it when things went wrong. So on that last point, one thing in scouting is for certain, and that is things will go well, things will not go well. So I don't want to scare off any of these Cub Scouts. Like, safety's always first. We have a lot of fun. You know, we go out there, we do campfires, we do s'mores. It's all good. However, having said that, with all the great things that have gone along, there's also been a few other things that have gone along. So I will come back to the 2 points, by the way. We had a fire incident at camp a few years ago at Mount Norris involving some liquid fuel. It was not exactly a great high point of our career, but, you know, that happens. So some other things. We nearly burned down an unnamed deer camp. A little propane fire there, nothing to worry about. We've had burnt food, we've had raw food, we've had questionably colored drinking water. When we're winter camping, sometimes there's yellow snow and it gets very suspiciously close to the tents. We're not sure where it comes from. We have frozen boots, we've had cold feet, cut fingers, bruises, blisters, slivers, heat stroke, ticks, at least one leech. Yes, you made it on the list. We've had unnamed rashes, spots, general exhaustion, hacking, wheezing, and sleep deprivation. There's been times when the scouts have said things to each other that were not, let's just say, very well thought out. So, and sometimes these things they're saying to each other, somehow you can hear it through their soundproof tents. They're all soundproof, apparently. So scouting isn't for everybody. That kind of goes without saying, I guess. So what does this have to do with Jacob? And how could this happen if the whole motto of the Boy Scouts of America is, well, be prepared? So first, what does it mean to be prepared? So why bother planning, if all this stuff's going to happen? So a quote from Dwight D. Eisenhower might shed a little bit of light on this. He said, "In preparing for battle, I've always found that plans are useless, but planning is indispensable." Plans useless, planning indispensable. So the scouts planned all these events. They spent time discussing how to get things done, what equipment and food they needed, where they're going to go, all that boring who, what, where, when, how stuff. The planning was important because it got them in a state of mind about how to make things happen. They learned how to listen to each other occasionally. In the process of doing this over and over, they learned what to pay attention to and what not to pay attention to. They learn the flexibility of using the resources and the conditions that they have. Not what they want to have, but the resources and conditions that they actually have. And usually this goes well, sometimes it doesn't go well, but to me, every event was a success. And that's what I believe the Scouts made it a success. So I bring all this up, so now we're moving on to Jacob. So I remember Jacob, he started in same year as my son. How old are they at that point? 7, 6? 6. So they were 6 as a Cub Scout, so I can't do the math up here. It's too much stress. It's some number of years between then and now. So they've been in it a long time. And I remember when Jacob crosses over, they go from Cub Scouts. Cub Scout prepares them to be a Boy Scout. So they went from Cub Scouts, and there's a crossing over ceremony. And the Scouts cross over, they walk across a bridge. It's a very nice ceremony if you haven't been there. So I remember Jacob when he crossed over, and, he's all young and full of vigor, wide-eyed, ready to take on the world. And a few years later, Hudson joined the troop, his younger brother. So now if you look at Jacob, you'll see him worn out, gray hair and balding. Basically all because of his brother and the stress caused. But, hang in there, you'll get through it. But during Jacob's time in the troop, he's been the senior patrol leader for a long time. So again, another tangent here, but a lot of people here don't know what it means to be a senior patrol leader. They don't know what a senior patrol leader is, a troop guide, and all this jargon we throw around. But the senior patrol leader in scouting, he's the top dog, big cheese, head honcho scout. So he's responsible for making things happen, not the adults. So our troop is scout-led, meaning the troops are responsible for a lot. So what does that mean, a lot? Let's take food, for example. If you go to Yosemite, there's probably a sign hammered in the ground somewhere that says, "Do not feed the bears." Well, my rule is, do not feed the scouts. So the scouts are responsible for their own food. So if they burn their food because they think it's funny, then they eat less. It's a very simple program. It works well. And, why would we do that? It doesn't seem very helpful. But one of the founders of Scouting, who's been quoted here earlier, said, "Never do anything a scout can do." And I believe that. So that's why that happens like that. So, like I said, I'm just trying to kind of round out what it means to be a scout. Like, we all know the merit badges. We all know Eagle's the highest rank. But as SPL, and there's a lot of SPLs or former SPLs in this room, that's Senior Patrol Leader. So who's our Senior Patrol Leader? Raise your hand, please. Right here. It's an important role, and I just wanted to take a little bit to kind of flesh that out a little. So, for people without scouting experience that haven't been in that role, put yourself in their shoes. So, as a senior patrol leader, so the shoes should be leather Gore-Tex hiking boots, preferably made in Italy with wool socks, no cotton. We don't wear cotton socks. So anyway, when you put yourself in their shoes, just play a little game, play along with me, kind of imagine what's happening here. So, scouts meet once a week, right? So our troop has about 10 scouts in it. Let's just call it a dozen. So imagine this is you, and you meet once a week. You have a dozen friends that meet with you. But no, they're not even friends necessarily. They might be over time, but right now you just show up with 12 random people every week, right? So you show up. What are you responsible for? Well, you're going to go camping every week. You need to agree on where you're going camping. You need to agree on what you're eating. You need to agree on all the planning. You need to get that done. So once a month, you have a big event. It could be shotgun shooting. It could be something else. But you are responsible. You're meeting once a month or once a week with this group of people. And you have a lot to do. You got to, get that off the ground. Where are we going? And I don't know if you've ever seen Columbo, but there's always another thing. So the other thing here is, you can't drive because you don't have a license. So you have to arrange transportation, right? And let's see, you have to abide by a bunch of different rules. For instance, you can't point a squirt gun at each other as a scout, but you can shoot a 12-gauge shotgun when you're 11, and that's perfectly okay. So some of these rules might not make sense, but they make sense to me. You shouldn't point a weapon at each other, so that makes perfect sense. So let's see, you've got to plan out your weekly thing. You've got to have some skills, so when you get into the wilderness, you don't die. So you got to have some first aid skills. You got to know how to tie a top line hitch. You got to do all this stuff. Another thing, you have no money. So you have bottle drives every once in a while, and you hang up a sign, and all the generous members of the community show up with their bottles. They give them to you. It's basically free money. You get all these bottles. You get dead mice. You get all kinds of weird stuff in there. These things happen. We all do it. It's good. So now you got some money. You got some people showing up. You got to figure out your skills. You've got rank advancement, another thing. You have to do exactly what it says on the rank advancement, or you don't advance. What other things are there? So this is just imagining you doing this every week at your current age compared to a 12 to 15, 16, 17-year-old. And by the way, in most troops, this is a job reserved, as you can see why, for scouts who are usually 15, 16, 17. But we have a small troop, so there's a lot of people doing this role. The other challenge that you'll have is there's a few older people that are kind of in the troop, but not really, but they have gray hair, and they're there all the time. And if you haven't guessed, that's like the scoutmaster, assistant scoutmaster, Mr. Koff, lots of different people that help to keep the program going. So the reason I say that's like another thing you have to deal with is when you ask them questions, they'll answer in ways like, did you ask your patrol leader that question? Or, I don't know, what do you think? Or, I'm pretty sure you can make that decision yourself. So they're kind of there, depending on how you look at it. They might be helpful, they might be not helpful. But that's kind of the role, and this is the kind of situation that you're in. So you can see what kind of challenge that might be with your current organizational skills, with your computers and your phones at your current age. And this is the role that Jacob stepped into very early on. And was successful in it and made it happen. And it didn't go right all the time. I mean, I think it's fair to say there were certain meetings that were not, quote, successful. And there might be other things that are, quote, failures. There's meetings. Another one of the challenges that you'll have with your group, your imaginary group that I just made up, is some weeks 4 will show up, some weeks 12 will show up, some weeks 8 will show up. You never really know. But the show must go on. And this is the kind of thing, as senior patrol leader, that Jacob was able to do at a very young age and then later on. So I don't want to, I guess I want to look at it this way. So a lot of times I've been accused of setting scouts up for failure because we don't hold their hand. And that's a fair charge, I'm sure. But we're here today. So I consider that a success, and those failures as things that happened on that journey. So, without going into, well, I've already carried on too long, but I just wanted to share one story about Jacob. So, scout camp, Mount Norris, everybody goes there. It's a week-long camp we have in Eden, Vermont. And I don't know, this was a few years ago. So I show up there, it's the middle of the day, and Jacob's the senior patrol leader again. I show up, we're unloading the trailer and everything, and I look over to Jacob, and I'm like, Jacob, you don't look good. And he said, oh yeah, I have Lyme disease. And he had the droopy face, I don't know the medical term, and I've learned that sensitivity to sunlight is a side effect of Lyme disease. So he's out there in the sun, and he looks like he had been in a cave for a week. And then somebody yelled his name, and he had to just run outside and say, hey, how you doing, And he's melting in the sun. He looks all clammy and miserable. And he's there, and he's leading his group. And he made it happen. So don't overdo it, but an inspiration to see that kind of dedication. So back to the two main points. Jacob and being prepared, right? That's what I said in the beginning, and then I got all tangled up. So here's a good piece of advice you might want to write down or tap into your phone or file it away back there. If there is a disaster in town, or a zombie apocalypse, or things are just generally circling the drain, and you see Jacob just kind of walking down the street, maybe he has a little olive drab backpack on or something, you'll want to hang out with that guy, because he'll be able to take care of you. Because I remember a little while ago I was asking him, because I was going to buy a backpack. I'm like, oh, Jacob, that's a nice backpack. What's, being as helpful as he always is, he says, okay, yeah, I'll show you, I'll show you the features of the backpack and stuff. So he opens it up, and he's unzipping stuff and, showing me the pockets and this holds this and this holds that. And I can't remember exactly what was in the backpack, but there were at least 6 ways to start a fire. There was water. There was various ways of making clean water. There were food rations, paracord, first aid kit, some way to make shelter, I'm sure, 3 flashlights. One of them will definitely cause blindness and or seizures. It is so bright. 3 different kinds of knives. All the 10 essentials are in there, duplicated most of the time, I'm sure. And just a whole assortment of kind of everything else. So if you see him during a disaster, just hang close to him, and I'm pretty sure that he could support a small family for at least a week just out of the backpack. And then you ask, well, what happens after a week? Well, after a week, you'll have to live on squirrels that he gets from his deadfall traps that him and his brother are getting so adept at. So you have to live on squirrels for about another week, and then after that, probably large game would be on the menu. I'm not sure, but the bottom line is he is prepared. So he'll be prepared to take care of that. So related to preparedness and survival and all that, so according to the BSA prioritized list of survival, What's the first most important thing in survival, actual survival situation? Any of the scouts know? Okay, I'll answer for you then. Positive mental attitude. Number 1. 2, first aid. If you're losing all your blood, everything number 3 and beyond really don't matter, so you want to patch that blood loss up first. Then shelter, you need a place to hang your hat. Then number 4 is fire. Got to have some fire, could help you mentally, could help you with a positive mental attitude. Might have to sterilize water. Signaling, water, and last on the list of 7 things, according to the BSA, is food. Jacob? So notice number 1 on the list, positive mental attitude. This is something Jacob has, and I have no doubt this will serve him well if he's ever in an actual survival situation, and is going to serve him well in other aspects of his life, such as surviving college, surviving work, and surviving everything else. With this list, though, you'll notice that food is number 7. Food is the last thing on the list. Generally, I would agree with this arrangement. However, if you find yourself in a survival situation with Jacob, you will probably want to make sure that he's well nourished, because as a troop, we found he performs his best when he is well nourished. And as an aside, I think one of his contributions to Scout Camp that he may not know that he even made is the portion size at Mount Norris. So at Mount Norris, they go to camp for a week. They have prepared meals basically the whole week, except for one day. And anywhere around Jacob, they're created some sort of natural black hole or anti-gravity vortex, or I'm not sure what it was, but the food just pulled into the center. So maybe it's a high gravity thing, I'm not sure, but he's very active, very large, needs a lot of food to keep all that going. But I'm pretty sure after leaving there that the portion size will increase next year at Mount Norris just as a result of that. So thank you, Jacob, because I'm eating the food too, so I appreciate you helping in that respect. So last thing, with Jacob and being prepared. So other than a disaster, so what else is he preparing for? So what's the purpose of all the merit badges, the ranks, the highest rank? So one of the founders of Scouting was asked, you say that Scouts should be prepared. It's just someone new to Scouting. Scouting is brand new. They're like, you're telling me that Scouts should be prepared. But be prepared for what? And his response was, for any old thing. So what's another word for any old thing? Life. Prepared for life. So I've also heard, this is according to science, which we should believe in. Science is a good thing. But science, there's 2 main things that it's a study. So it'll change. Who knows? Next week, it probably have a different result. But according to this scientific study, there's 2 main things that result in success in life. So you have to have these 2 things. One is perseverance. And I wasn't even aware of the Calvin Coolidge quote that Jacob brought up earlier, but that really speaks to that. And 2, really the same thing, but it's listed as 2. The ability to favor long-term goals rather than instant gratification. So like I said, this is according to the latest study. I don't know if the study's right or not, but if it is right, and the 2 things you need are perseverance and the ability to favor long-term goals rather than instant gratification, then I'd say Jacob has what it takes. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. And may I have you up forward? I'd like to invite Jacob, his mother Jennifer, and his father Matt up front, please. There is a long-standing tradition when an eagle is pinned with his medal that there is recognition also for all the people that were behind him and assisted him in his journey. Everybody in this room played a part in Jacob's success. His immediate family, Hudson and Molly, his extended family, his aunts, uncles, and grandparents. But Jacob will present and pin his mother in recognition of her support throughout his scouting journey. Next, Jacob will present and pin his father in recognition of his father's support throughout his journey. I'd like to recognize Jacob for some of his accomplishments in scouting. Jacob has taken the National Youth Leadership Training while in scouting. He served as the Assistant Senior Patrol Leader for his troop, which represented the entire state of Vermont at the National Jamboree. Including Eagle, Jacob has accomplished 7 ranks in scouting. Jacob is required to obtain 21 merit badges, some of which are specific to the Eagle rank. The others Jacob can pick on his own. That's 21 merit badges. Jacob has obtained 31. Jacob is also a member of the Order of the Arrow. In recognition of his additional merit badge completions, Jacob will be awarded a bronze palm for the first additional 5 merit badges and will be awarded a gold palm, which will reside on his Eagle badge for the second additional 5 merit badges, a total of 10 additional badges besides the requirement. A truly impressive undertaking and career in scouting thus far. Jacob's mom, Jennifer, will now pin Jacob first with his Eagle medal. Jacob's father, Matt, will now replace Jacob's existing neckerchief that he has so proudly worn throughout his scouting career. And Jacob's dad, Matt, will replace that with the Eagle neckerchief that only Eagle Scouts will wear. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce you to Woodstock Troop 20's newest Eagle Scout, Jacob Maxham.
Oh yes, look at this. We have one more pinning to do before we are over here. And this is a special pin. And this is the mentor pin.
So I didn't have an official mentor for my Eagle project, but I've chosen to award it to Mr. Koff for helping me with my advancement up through Eagle. So, thank you, Mr. Koff.
And the mentor is a special recognition for somebody that's helped this eagle on his journey.
Thank you, buddy.
The rank of Eagle, as you have heard, is very significant. And at this time, I would like to recognize all the Eagle Scouts in attendance today. Gentlemen, please stand and be recognized. Congratulations on your awesome achievement. I would like to call up Kevin Anderson, who is the Scoutmaster of the Windsor, Vermont Troop and also Jacob's advisor for the Order of the Arrow chapter. Kevin would like to read a welcome to Jacob from an eagle to an eagle.
Wow, what a great pleasure it is to be here today. You know, the second class award of the Boy Scouts of America is an upturned scroll which reminds us to smile. And if you look at the pictures downstairs of this young man as he's grown up through the years, there's one thing that's constant through the whole thing and to this day is that smile. Jacob, you're a marked man. Keep smiling. Eagle Scout Jacob Maxham, as a representative of the Eagle Scouts of the Green Mountain Council, I welcome you to the Brotherhood of Eagle Scouts. Barely more than 3% of the boys who enter Scouting achieve what you have been recognized for today. The requirements are demanding, but fair, requiring perseverance and ability. I'm not here to talk of your past accomplishments, which are great, but of your future opportunities. I received my Eagle Award more than 38 years ago. Valentine's Day of 1980. Do you remember the day you got yours? That day you'll remember forever. And in those years it has been continually enriched my life. It is now your turn. When you attended scouting functions, scouters will recognize you as a doer, and you will be standing as an equal among leaders. Your Eagle Award will go far beyond scouting itself. When you apply to a college or apply for a good job, Eagle Scout on your application helps. I know because it helped me. It doesn't open doors necessarily, but it does reflect who it is that you're talking to. It says a lot about you. More than that, the things you have done, the leadership and character you have developed will stand by you. Better than a certificate and a piece of ribbon in a frame. You will have opportunities to be of service to others through your school, your work, and through scouting, because you know what you can accomplish. You get away from scouting maybe for a few years. I hope you don't, but stay with it. The other side of the hill is just as much fun as the summit you have achieved. Congratulations.
I would like to call Jacob forward, for he has a few words.
So I'd just like to quickly thank a few people. I'd like to thank John Cameron for donating the stones for my Eagle project, and Darren McCullough for helping me with the stonework. And also I'd like to thank all the scouts and scout leaders and friends and family that helped me with my Eagle project. So thank you to all those people.
I would like to call up Jacob's father, Matt, who would like to say a few words.
I'm kind of taking my dad hat off for a second and acting as committee chair here. I wanted to also thank, there's a few people here I'd like you to just stand up and be recognized. I didn't see her come in, but I'm sure Michelle Fountain. Michelle was Jacob's first Cub Master. Chris and Jane Blanchard were also Cub Masters and den leaders for Jacob when he was a Cub Scout. And three gentlemen, Jeff Dudell and Mark Koff and Bob Ennis, were Jacob's 3 Scoutmasters. Without you people giving your time and showing the dedication that you have to scouting, we wouldn't be standing here today. So thank you, all of you. And the last thing, really quickly, all of this doesn't happen in a vacuum. We have a scout committee. I see Dwight Camp is here, Mary Riley's here, Bob Coates. I think Bill Dagger might be here. Anyway, these are people who also give of their time to work in the background and make sure that scouting happens in Woodstock. And if you have any interest in helping out or getting involved in scouting, you can call me anytime. I'll sign you up.
Thank you, Matt. Scouts? Scouts, you can take a seat. You may all be seated. I would like to call up Father Mike for our closing.
First of all, as you all know, the Scouts' motto is be prepared. So not only are the Scouts always prepared, but also their parents, I think, as well, because you're all invited downstairs, because they've certainly brought more than enough food. As hungry as you guys are, I'm certainly there's enough for all of you. So they've been very much prepared. So truly, go downstairs. All right, Jacob. You were told to sit back and relax. But you know, in regards to me, that does not work. So, you lit 12 candles to represent the tenets of the Scout Law. Of those, which one do you think is your best quality? Because this is all about you. So now you get to say something about yourself, which you don't really like to do.
Loyal. Loyal.
Loyal. Very good. Would you all please stand? For we ask God's blessings upon you, Jacob, that you always will be loyal, loyal to family, friends, and everyone that you come in contact with. We ask your blessings upon all these other scouts, younger than you, that they may follow your example. May God's blessings come upon your parents, your family, your friends, that they always may be supportive not only to you, but to all people in need. And so may Almighty God's blessings come upon each and every one of us. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Go eat.